Welcome to History Unveiled. Today, we journey into one of history's most enduring enigmas, the 10 lost tribes of Israel. For centuries, the fate of these ancient groups, exiled after the Assyrian conquest, has sparked debate, fueled legends, and even inspired modern groups to claim ancestral ties. In this video, we'll investigate the biblical background and historical context, examine scholarly debates and pseudo-archaeological theories, profile modern claimants like the Lemba, and reflect on why this myth continues to captivate us. Our story begins in the ancient kingdoms of Israel and Judah. According to the Hebrew Bible, following the exodus from Egypt and the conquest of Canaan, the Israelite people were organized into 12 tribes. These tribes united, under the reigns of figures like Saul, David, and Solomon, to form a single, powerful kingdom. Yet, after Solomon's death, tensions led to a split. The northern 10 tribes formed the Kingdom of Israel, while the tribes of Judah and Benjamin established the Kingdom of Judah. When the Assyrian Empire rose to power in the 8th century BCE, its relentless military campaigns reshaped the region. In 721 BCE, the Assyrian king Sargon II captured the capital city of the northern kingdom, Samaria, and deported large segments of its population. This dramatic event is chronicled in both biblical texts and ancient Assyrian records. The deported Israelites, now scattered throughout the vast empire, would eventually be remembered as the lost tribes. Biblical accounts, such as in 2 Kings chapter 17, describe the exile as divine punishment, an act to rid the people of their sins. For the authors of these texts, the disappearance of the northern tribes reinforced the idea that true Israel was now found only in Judah. Over time, the narrative of the 10 tribes' disappearance gave birth to a powerful myth that one day, these tribes would reappear and be restored. Historically, however, archaeological evidence paints a more nuanced picture. Excavations in ancient Samaria reveal layers of destruction corresponding to the Assyrian conquest, while studies suggest that many of the deported Israelites likely assimilated with local populations in the regions to which they were moved. Yet, despite assimilation, the memory of a lost past persisted in the collective imagination. Assyrian inscriptions and archaeological findings have confirmed that during Sargon II's reign, tens of thousands of Israelites were forcibly relocated to areas as far away as modern-day Iraq and Iran. These records, even if fragmentary, corroborate the biblical account of mass deportation, setting the stage for centuries of speculation about what became of these exiled peoples. For many scholars, the lost status of these tribes is less a mystery and more a process of gradual assimilation. Some historians argue that the deportees adopted the cultures of their new homelands, and while they may have preserved certain traditions, their distinct tribal identities eventually faded away. Others, however, see in the persistence of the legend a testament to a deep-seated hope for a lost homeland and a restored national identity. The narrative of the 10 lost tribes has long been a fertile ground for both serious scholarship and wild speculation. In academic circles, debates continue over how much of the biblical account is historical versus theological in nature. Scholars like William G. Dever and Amihai Mazza have extensively analyzed the Assyrian records and archaeological data, suggesting that while the deportations are historically attested, the idea of a single, intact group of lost tribes re-emerging as a cohesive entity is more myth than reality. For example, Dever's research emphasizes that the archaeological layers in Samaria show clear evidence of destruction and resettlement, consistent with the Assyrian policy of mass deportation. However, he also notes that many Israelites who were not deported merged with the local population of Judah, thus preserving their heritage in ways that are not immediately visible on the surface. This interpretation challenges the sensational claim that the tribes simply vanished into thin air. At the same time, pseudo-archaeological theories have flourished. Certain groups and self-styled researchers claim that unexplained artifacts or mysterious inscriptions prove that the lost tribes migrated to far-flung regions such as Europe, Asia, or even the Americas. These theories often cite sources like the Biblical Archaeology Society discussions or fringe interpretations of Assyrian reliefs, but they tend to lack the rigorous methodology of academic research. One popular pseudo-theory suggests that the 10 tribes crossed into Europe and eventually became the progenitors of the Anglo-Saxons or even modern-day Indians. Such ideas, often grouped under British Israelism, use linguistic puzzles and loose correlations of ancient names to draw connections that most mainstream scholars dismiss as fanciful at best. Critics of these theories argue that they oversimplify complex historical processes. They point out that the Assyrian deportations were a part of a broader imperial policy, and while these events disrupted the national fabric of Israel, they did not result in a single, monolithic group wandering the earth. Instead, the exiled peoples underwent a process of fragmentation, adaptation, and intermarriage, which makes the notion of lost tribes more a symbol of hope than a concrete historical reality. Moreover, while the biblical narrative speaks of a miraculous future restoration, archaeological evidence has yet to reveal any unmistakable signs of a reconstituted Israelite state emerging from the ruins of the Northern Kingdom. Instead, the material record supports a history of gradual assimilation and dispersal, a process that challenges the romanticized idea of a sudden, dramatic reappearance of the lost tribes. In summary, scholarly debates continue to refine our understanding of this period. Many experts agree that while the biblical texts preserve a kernel of historical truth, the later legends of reassembly and return are better understood as expressions of enduring hope and cultural memory than as verifiable events. Despite, or perhaps because of, the uncertainties in ancient history, the idea of the lost tribes has continued to resonate powerfully in modern times. Across the globe, several communities claim descent from the Israelites, asserting that they are the living heirs of the ancient 10 tribes. Among the most fascinating of these groups are the Lemba people of southern Africa. The Lemba, who live in Zimbabwe, South Africa, and neighboring countries, maintain a rich oral tradition asserting that they are descended from ancient Jewish or South Arabian ancestors. Their customs, including dietary laws, circumcision practices, and a reverence for a sacred object they call the ingoma, which some equate with the Ark of the Covenant, set him apart from surrounding communities. Genetic research has provided some support for these oral traditions. Studies of Y chromosome markers among the Lemba have shown a significant proportion of Semitic ancestry, markers that are common among Jewish and Arab populations in the Middle East. For instance, research has revealed that members of the Bubba clan carry the Cohen modal haplotype, a genetic signature associated with the ancient Jewish priesthood. These findings suggest that a portion of the Lemba male line may indeed trace back to a group that originated in the Middle East. However, the genetic evidence is complex. While some markers indicate a connection to the Middle East, many genetic signatures among the Lemba also align with local African populations. This mixture is not unusual in communities that have existed for centuries in a region of active trade and migration. Rather than proving a direct, unbroken line of descent from the ancient Israelites, the genetic data suggest a story of migration, intermarriage, and cultural exchange, a narrative that mirrors the multifaceted history of the ancient Near East itself. But the Lemba are not the only group making such claims. In India, the Bnei Menashe asserts that they descend from the tribe of Manasseh. After centuries of isolation in the northeastern states of Mizoram and Manipur, some members of this community have embraced Jewish practices and even undergone formal conversion to Judaism. Today, many Bnei Menashe have immigrated to Israel under the law of return, seeking to reclaim an identity that has been a source of both pride and controversy. Other groups, such as the Bnei Ephraim in South India, the Igbo Jews in Nigeria, and various communities in the Americas and elsewhere, also claim ancient Israelite ancestry. While each case has its own unique historical, cultural, and genetic background, they all share a common thread: the desire to connect with an ancient, storied past and to assert a distinct identity rooted in the biblical narrative of the lost tribes. For many of these communities, the claim is not just about genetics or archaeology. It's about preserving a cultural heritage that has been passed down through oral tradition, ritual practice, and a deep sense of communal belonging. Whether through a careful study of ancient texts or the embrace of specific religious customs, these modern groups have woven the legend of the lost tribes into the fabric of their identities. Yet, the claims remain controversial. Mainstream Jewish authorities are often cautious when it comes to recognizing non-traditional groups as having authentic Israelite lineage. The debate touches on sensitive issues of ethnicity, conversion, and the very definition of what it means to be Jewish. Nonetheless, the fact that so many diverse communities continue to assert an Israelite heritage underscores the powerful allure of the lost tribes myth. So, why does the myth of the 10 lost tribes continue to endure after more than 2 millennia? The answer lies in a potent mix of historical trauma, cultural memory, and the unity at its heart. The story of the lost tribes speaks to the experience of exile and displacement, a theme that resonates deeply with many peoples around the world. The Israelites were exiled, scattered far and wide, and their return was promised by prophets as a sign of divine justice and restoration. For centuries, this hope provided comfort and inspired countless works of art, literature, and theology. It became a metaphor for lost identity and the yearning for a return to one's roots. In modern times, the myth has acquired new dimensions. For many groups claiming lost Israelite heritage, the legend is not merely an abstract idea. It is a living reality, a rallying cry for reclaiming an identity that has been obscured or denied by history. Whether it's the Lemba in Africa or the Bnei Menashe in India, these communities see themselves as the heirs to an ancient promise. Their stories become both a personal and collective narrative, bridging past and present in a quest for legitimacy, recognition, and belonging. Furthermore, the myth's endurance is fueled by a fascination with mystery and the unknown. The idea that a whole group of people could vanish from history, only to reappear in modern times, captures the imagination like few other legends. It has inspired a vast literature of speculative theories, from claims of migrations to far-off lands to elaborate attempts to decode hidden messages in ancient texts. While much of this speculation lacks rigorous evidence, it continues to circulate in popular culture, amplified by books, documentaries, and even online forums. The interplay between science and myth has also contributed to the story's staying power. Advances in genetic research have provided tantalizing hints that lend credibility to some of the claims made by modern groups. However, as we've seen, genetic evidence is often complex and ambiguous. Rather than providing definitive answers, these studies remind us of the intricate tapestry of human migration and interconnection, a tapestry in which the threads of ancient Israelite identity are interwoven with countless others. This ambiguity only deepens the mystery, allowing the myth to persist in both scholarly debates and the popular imagination. Finally, the Lost Tribes myth serves as a powerful symbol of hope and resilience. For many, it represents the possibility of a return to a golden age, a time when a lost people might be reunited and restored to their ancient heritage. In a world where identity is often fragmented by political, cultural, and social divisions, the idea of rediscovering and reclaiming a lost past offers a form of redemption. It is a call to remember where one comes from, and a promise that no matter how far one may wander, there is always a possibility of return. The 10 Lost Tribes remain one of history's great mysteries, a puzzle that straddles the realms of documented history, scholarly inquiry, and mythic imagination. Their story reminds us that history is not a fixed narrative, but a living dialogue between the past and the present, between what is known and what is hoped for. In our exploration today, we have seen how the biblical narrative of the 10 lost tribes is rooted in the traumatic events of the Assyrian conquest, a historical reality that set in motion a process of exile, assimilation, and cultural transformation. We examined the scholarly debates that challenge and refine the traditional account, and we encountered modern groups like the Lemba and the Bnei Menashe who claim a living connection to that ancient past. Whether viewed through the lens of archaeology, genetics, or cultural memory, the legend of the lost tribes continues to captivate us because it embodies the universal longing for identity, belonging, and redemption. It is a story that transcends the boundaries of time and place, a myth that, in its ambiguity, invites us to question what we know about history and what we yearn to reclaim. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the mysteries of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest explorations into history's hidden chapters.